Good evening, welcome to Against Modernism. I'm your host, Daniel. If you're here, you know something is wrong with today's society. But what that is, it can be so hard for us to put our fingers on. So my goal with this show, this recording is to offer a traditional way of viewing society and the problems that befall us, so that these kind of ills we experience might be understood in a more digestible way. We're confused because we've been cut off, or at least we've forgotten that we have two hands. In our left hand, we have sociology, the scientific approach to politics. This hand deals with methods of analytics and scientific observation that can be used to guide practical application by politicians. This is the only hand that is currently operating in modern politics. We've been taught by our educators and by our media that the best way of approaching any subject is through a strictly analytical and scientific lens, and this is Machiavellian in nature. For example, we might determine through observation and analysis that the most efficient economic structure for any given area is to have a Walmart supercenter dominating the middle of the city. Since Walmart's supply chain and capital far surpass anything achievable by local businessmen, they're able to supply the local population with goods at the most affordable prices. Now, this makes a lot of sense if you have a purely left-hand understanding. But what about our right hand? The right hand holds the guiding principles, ethics, and even the metaphysics of a given society. The right hand deals with a deeper analysis. It tells us what the purpose of the society should be and what means the society should utilize or avoid in order to achieve the ends it desires. Let's go back to that Walmart issue. Let's ask ourselves, what is in the right hand of those politicians? What are their principles? The ones who are deciding to put a Walmart into your town. There is a presupposition or assumption made that the best decision possible is to maximize efficiency in terms of material. Walmart offers the most goods at the cheapest prices to the largest numbers of people, so it must be good, right? But what if we have different guiding principles? What if we decide that what we want is what's best for the local families? Let's say we want the average local family to be able to own their own land, to have children, and to live a simple but fulfilling life, perhaps at the sacrifice of the goods you can get from Walmart, these kind of abundant material goods. Well, if we want those things, our solution changes. Walmart is known for destroying family-owned businesses that compete with it, so it can't be allowed in our society. I'll explain a little bit. What Walmart does is they'll come into an area, they'll recognize the competitors that sell, let's say, like rugs. So what will happen is Walmart will cut the prices on all their rugs and related items for like a year or 2 years, and they wait until these other businesses go out of business because you can't afford to produce the rugs at the same cost that this Walmart's getting them from, some worker in India. And with their vast supply chain, they're able to get these rugs on their shelves for maybe like $10 a piece, whereas the local business, it costs them, $40, maybe more than that in terms of man hours worked and things like that. But there's no chance of competing. And then once the competition is out of business, Walmart will crank up their prices on that item. So what happens to the family that owned the local business that went bankrupt? Well, who knows? They might end up working at that very Walmart for minimum wage. So if our political philosophy is adjusted to helping families rather than maximizing economic efficiency, we'll come up with two drastically different outcomes. One system will welcome Walmart with open arms, and I think you can acknowledge that our current system is very, very much resembling that. And the other system will vehemently oppose it. Okay? So now let's look at our society today. If we want to pinpoint exactly what is wrong with our society, we should ask ourselves, what principles do our politicians hold in their right hand? And what that means is what principles are guiding their left hand in the sociology department, or the scientific analysis and the actual practical application department. What are the underlying principles what are the things that they believe that are guiding these things? Okay, do they think society has a purpose? If so, what purpose do they think it has? And does this align with what we kind of believe deep down? And you might not have thought about this a lot. I think I hadn't thought about it a lot until I was, reading reading on it quite a bit recently. But these are things we should think about, and this is kind of our duty as a citizen to think about these things. So, our North American political system operates under the modernist worldview, or metaphysics, if you want. What exactly do the modernists believe? Well, they believe that the truth is subjective. That means every individual has their own truth, and there's no objective truth that descends from a higher authority that kind of governs all of our intellects to assent to it. They believe that the truth changes from age to age, it changes from place to place, and even from person to person. So you can see this reflected in a lot of individuals in modern society. You can see they think, oh, well, this is okay, and this is what we want in Africa, but when we apply it to Europe, for instance, something like racial identity, if you're talking about racial politics, they might say, oh, well, no white people should be in Africa, but Africans should definitely be in Europe, right? They'll have this kind of double standard because they think what's true or what's desirable changes from place to place. And from age to age, you see that a lot, where people say, oh, well, that's outdated, right? That's outdated. And from person to person, this is a bit rarer, and it's kind of still considered a little bit crazy for now. But you see this becoming more of an accepted opinion. You see movements like BLM and Antifa kind of advocating for these positions where truth is dependent upon the person's experience and things like that. And that's all completely modernist. And you'll see that the trend is that we're slipping more and more into this kind of modernist intellectual approach to understanding reality in our society. What else do they believe? They believe that human reason alone is the only thing that can answer what is true or false, or good or bad. Okay, so again, they don't believe in any type of ascendant authority that is above all of us. They believe that each person's mind is the only measure about morality, about truth, about the nature of being, and things of that nature. They believe most of all that each individual has a right to their subjective judgments about truth, morality, politics, and society just by nature of existing. And you see this a lot nowadays if you take the position that truth is actually objective, and you should realize that, and you should perhaps get your behavior in line with the truth that clearly is objective. One of these issues to me is the right to life and this kind of like pro-life cause. It's extremely obvious that people have a right to, babies have a right to be born, right? If you tell people that they actually cannot, if they believe that that's subjective, they're actually doing an obscene evil. They'll freak out at you because they don't understand this idea that there could be an objective truth. They get offended as soon as you say that, hey, this is true, doesn't matter what you think, right? People can't accept that in today's society. And also they believe that these individual rights to subjectivity extend infinitely. So they extend to like we were talking about, they extend to even issues of life and death. as long as they don't directly interfere with another individual's rights to the same ability to have this subjective opinion. Okay, it's like it's the most ridiculous understanding ever. So yeah, we see these ideas manifest politically in the form of progressivism and, surprisingly to some people, libertarianism also. Okay, and I think people are waking up to this fact. They want to advance the human condition through natural means, and libertarians also want this. Okay, they want better technology, they want better medicine, they want more religious tolerance, they want peace, temporal peace, and they want material wealth or material things. Okay. Notice how the ends of the modernists are all what we would call left-handed in nature, and that they are all sociological subjects or directly related to kind of material, naturalistic understanding of the world. They can all be kind of practically applied, so like medicine, technology, etc., rather than subjects of philosophy. So they're very shallow. They don't reach down and say, what is the purpose of society? They merely assume that the purpose of society is just to advance materially, advance technologically, etc. Okay? They are all practical and naturalistic in nature. So the modernists do not ask themselves questions about which principles their efforts are derived from, because they don't have principles. They only have subjectivity and this understanding of individualism, which proclaims itself to be liberty or for freedom, but truly it is for license. Anyway, for instance, what if technological advancement causes blue-collar workers to lose their livelihood? So what if trucks can drive themselves, and what if the truckers lose their jobs? I mean, there's hundreds of thousands. It's like the biggest employer in America, right? It's truck drivers. What if their families become impoverished because of that? The modernists can't account for this. What if material wealth means the loss of identity and a sharp increase in serious mental health problems? I mean, you see this happening, especially during things like Corona, where other things are taken away from them, such as like social interaction, family life gets more difficult, right? And there's this focus on material wealth, make sure no one starves to death. But what does it matter if they starve to death if they're shooting themselves in the head? What if better medicine means things like forced vaccinations? We're seeing that with Corona. What if it means abortion? What if it means involuntary euthanasia? We don't know where these things are going. I mean, they've already progressed so extremely far in the wrong direction in the past, 30 or 40 years that we can't really imagine what we'll see in the next 10 years. What if we force peace at a time where it is crucial that we go to war? What if we have to defend our borders and we want peace? So we say, oh, just let them in. It's fine. What if we have to defend our nation? What if we have to close our borders to immigrants? Our identity, right? We have to maintain that. Or our altars. What if our religion, what if our principles as a society are undermined by a bad idea? We have to be able to go to war with these ideas, whether that means, actually physically fighting them or going to, intellectual war. We're not allowed to do that anymore because everything's subjective. So modernism really offers us nothing except for these cheap, meaningless advancements towards goals that their foundation is on a hollow and a false philosophy. G.K. Chesterton has a point that if we want to progress towards a goal, which is like our whole modern credo is to this progress, right? No, progress. We want to be progressive. Well, you have to have a goal that's solid and unchanging. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to progress. Progress is only measured by a goalpost. If you keep moving it, you're never going to achieve anything. So, what should we do? We have to think about the principles we want to live by and what the principles that our society should operate by. So, for instance, do you believe in objective truth, or Do you think that all subjective truths are equal? This is a no-brainer for most people. Do you believe that there are two sexes, or do you believe that there's 72 genders? Remember the Jordan Peterson thing? Last time I checked in 2016, they said there were 72 genders, and there's things like worm self, right? This is the subjective. This is the modernist manifested philosophy in our society, and now Canada's recognizing that there's an infinite number of gender pronouns or whatever you call it, right? So this is being recognized by our government and implemented, and I guarantee you it's being implemented behind the scenes in other places that are just kind of more difficult to accentuate the importance of them. But anyway, so I feel some, going through that Peterson thing, I feel some brotherhood with some of the men who lived through that. Some of them might be libertarian, some of them might be a little bit more based, or along that path anyway, because I feel a brotherhood with them because we do believe in objective truth. Whether or not you recognize it, there's an inherent understanding that there is an objective truth. There is, in fact, only two sexes. It's very obvious. Gender doesn't really exist. And my point there is to accentuate the importance of understanding objective truth versus subjectivity. If you have a kind of inherent and built-in understanding of the truth as objective, I'm automatically aligned with you, at least at the very very basic level. I'm aligned with you, and we can actually speak, right? With these modernists who've embraced subjectivity and they've embraced kind of this experiential idea of what is true, there's no ground to actually discuss things with them. So that's the point. That's why I feel that's why I thought it, pertinent to mention the brotherhood that I feel towards people I might disagree with, politically speaking or philosophically speaking. I might disagree with you, but at the very basics, I can tell that we agree. We both have an objective understanding of truth, and that's extremely important. And if you could take away anything from this episode, I think the important thing to remember is be aware, when you're looking at politics. Be aware of, yes, you can look at the analytical side of things. You can see, is this the best solution to solve this problem? Is building a Walmart going to maximize efficiency? Those are good questions to ask, but always remember to ask, what principles are underlying these decisions? Do we want to maximize efficiency if it means Walmart is going to destroy our local businesses? And that's really the crux of modernism in politics, is that it lacks principle, and it lacks a philosophical foundation for those principles as well. And I hope I have conveyed that somewhat decently here. I'm going to be doing a couple other of these, kind of explaining a little bit more about modernism, and I want to talk more about the traditional philosophy that we've replaced for the worse and what has kind of got us here. That's really the theme that I want to focus on. So I'll be talking a lot more about what we used to believe, ideas that have now been kind of demonized, such as, ideas embraced by fascists, ideas embraced by authoritarians, by actual right-wing parties, not by conservatives, and ideas ultimately embraced by and really created or kind of fleshed out by the Catholic Church. And it all begins with Aristotle and is largely furthered by Aquinas inside the Catholic religion. So there's You can't separate these things. You can't separate the philosophy of fascism and the philosophy of kind of a strong right wing understanding of politics and Catholicism. They're one and the same, and I'll accentuate that in further episodes. Anyways, if you want to hear more podcasts, I'm going to be talking about modernism and traditionalism and modern society and the faith and politics. Go to my YouTube, Against Modernism. Subscribe. I'm going to be trying to do one of these per week. Thank you.